Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name is Bob, I'll be your host. When I got started playing tabletop role playing games, my first game was Basic Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s. And when I was in high school in the early part of the 90s, we played a lot of Basic Dungeons and Dragons. And from Basic Dungeons and Dragons, I went on to the D6 Star Wars and other games. But in high school, when we were playing Basic Dungeons and Dragons, the main group I belonged to, we had very few people. So we ran this game where we would take turns being game master. One person would run, and everybody else would play. And then the next game, someone else would run, and their characters would become NPCs, and the other game master would run. And when he would run again, his characters would be NPCs and so forth. And it worked out pretty good for us. Sometimes we played more than one character in a game because we had so few people, we needed to boost our numbers up in our party. But it worked out. It had a lot of fun, a lot of good memories with that. Well, jump forward about 25 years, and the group I was playing with decided that we would do something similar to that. We were going to do Pathfinder, and the way it was going to go was we had one person that was going to run the game from levels 1 to 5, and then he would start playing, and someone else would run from level 6 to 10, and then the next person would run from levels 11 to 15, and so forth. And when we would run, the character we were playing would become an NPC. Well, this, I thought, was a great idea. It put me in the mind of many years ago, and I had lots of good memories and fun. So I figured, give it a shot. And we had one person start the whole thing, and he was like, I have a great idea for a campaign for us to do. So we trusted him. So when we made up characters, there was immediately should have been a red flag because that we should have discussed things, because nobody was allowed to play anything but a human. Couldn't play elves, couldn't play dwarves, nothing. Because it was going to be a somewhat historic setting, and I wasn't really looking forward to that, big on it, because I like a lot of hard fantasy in my games. But anyway, he started us off, and we were all prisoners, and we had none of our equipment, and some of us were spellcasters and didn't have our books, so we couldn't cast any spells or anything. And his character was not a prisoner. His character that he was using as NPC at the time comes in on this big, magnificent horse, geared out, everything, and he rescues us, and we get away. And we weren't able to really get good equipment for a long time. We were second level before spellcasters could get a spell book to cast any spells. So that kind of stunk. Well, it went on, and we had this other player in the game who he had been playing for about a year, role-playing games. He was kind of new, and the guy that was running in the start, he said he's going to teach him to play the game. He already knew how to play the game. And he's like, well, I want him to be a part and make decisions, because the guy was kind of shy and stuff, and sometimes it takes a while to get into it, you know. But he really wanted to play, and so he forced him to be like this deposed leader of this kingdom, and we had to work for him to put him back on the throne. And once he got in command, he was supposed to make the decisions. And he had this NPC that was the bodyguard for him, that was way powerful. And every time he make a decision, the NPC would kind of contramand it and make him do something else, pretty much take his decision away from him. So he wasn't really making any decisions. The player was put in a position that he really hated. And he did not like it at all and was going to quit, but we talked him into sticking around. So he played through, and we get to 5th level, so I was up next. I was going to run from 6 to 10. But he wasn't finished. He had things he wanted to wrap up, so we let him go. And the next time we get together, he had more he wanted to do, more he wanted to do. I believe we were like 7th level before we finally said, "You're done. You wrap it up this one or else." So I took over after that. And before the first game that I ran, he takes me to the side and he tells me all these hidden things he put that I could use if I needed to. Apparently, a lot of the NPCs we were running into were, by the way, even though it was historic and we couldn't play anything but humans, just about everything we ran into was goblins and ogres and stuff and orcs. So that was kind of But apparently a lot of his big bad NPCs were gold dragons in hiding. His magnificent warhorse he had was a gold dragon in hiding, so he essentially gave himself a pet dragon. I was kind of really miffed at this point. But I kept my mouth shut. And I hurriedly wrapped up everything he had set up, and then pretty much put us in a situation where we could just maliciously slay the big bad he was putting in there. And in the fight, we got teleported to another place where there was high fantasy, and the other player didn't have to worry about being a king no more. And by the way, he was extremely happy about that. He had a lot of fun because he no longer felt he was being put on a spot. And while I was running, the guy that was supposed to take up next at 11th level kept pressuring me. "You got to hurry up. You got to hurry up. I want to run. I got ideas. I got ideas." And I was kind of really over it at this point. So I fudged a lot of stuff and built everybody up to 10th level real quick so he could take over. Before I did it, though, I had put us in a situation where we had to slay his pet dragon. He was really mad about that. And the whole time we were in this other world, he kept trying to start a religion to worship Thor, and kept telling him there is no Thor in this world. And every time we tried to do something, he tried to force it that we had to make his church and try to make it about it, making him a church. And well, by the time I was done, he'd already quit. And my other friend takes over at 11th level, and the first thing he does, and the only thing he does, is he starts the game and we get to see all the gods die and fall from the skies. And that's pretty much what the whole first session was. That's it. There was nothing else to it. And second session, he's like, "I got a bunch of great ideas, Second session, "I'm not ready yet." So we just kind of hung out. Next session, "I'm not ready yet. Just hung out. And then after that, it just kind of died, petered out. I was looking forward to a lot of nostalgia in that game, reminding me of the good old days and stuff. But from start to finish, it was a horrible experience. And I don't blame the guy that was up first. I don't blame the guy that was second. I kind of blame me. But everybody involved was at fault. All the people game mastering, all three of us. We should have, before we started, gotten together and agreed upon a game world, a setting, stuff that was going to be included, was not going to be included. But we didn't do that. Why we didn't do that, I don't even remember at the time. But we're all at fault there, and we're all to blame for what happened in this failed experiment. And I say that was one of the most disappointing games I'd ever been involved with. And it could have been so much better. I'm not saying such a thing doesn't work, because it does work. It worked when I was in high school. It should have worked this time, but we didn't get together and discuss things beforehand like we should have. We just let it go. And each of us are going to put our own spin and take, and none of us wanted the same thing. And it just resulted in a very bad game and what was probably a very crappy experience for everybody involved. So that's my story for tonight. Sorry it's such a downer, but thank you for listening to my story, and hopefully you'll learn something from it. What, I don't know, other than talk things out beforehand. But hopefully you'll come here next time and we'll talk about something else. Bye.